guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, Amanda Bakes. So today we're going to be making homemade onion rings. So let's get started. So the first thing you're going to need is a quart of canola oil and a deep fryer. So we have a electric kettle here. Thanks, Mom. And it's plugged in, and I've already put the quart of oil into the electric kettle and taken the basket out and set it to the side. So we're just going to wait for the oil to heat up, and you'll know it's heating up when you start seeing ripples in it. And you'll want to set it at a temperature of 365. So while the oil is heating, we're going to go ahead and start on the next steps. So the first thing you're going to need is an onion. So I have my onion right here, and we're just going to go ahead and peel it. So peeled onion in 3, 2, 1. Ta-da! Peeled onion. So next what you're going to want to do is cut it into slices. Okay, so when you're cutting it, you want to slice it into rings. So you're going to turn it on its side so that you'll get the rings. And then you're just going to cut across. So like here's the end. And then you'll cut another slice past that. And see how you get this slice that you'll later separate into rings like this. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut the whole onion. Okay, so as you can see, I've now got it cut into slices, and I'm gonna go ahead and separate it into rings and set it aside. So for separating it into rings, you're just gonna push it, and then you can see it separates into these little rings. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that with all of them. Okay, so after the onion slices, the next thing you're gonna wanna add is 1 teaspoon of baking powder, not baking soda. There is a difference. And you wanna add that in a bowl. And then you want to get salt and add 1 teaspoon of that as well. And then 1 1/4 cup of flour. So there's 1 cup, and then I'm just gonna kind of use the 1 cup to eyeball 1/4 of a cup. It doesn't matter a whole lot for onion rings. It doesn't have to be super exact. So there's my 1 1/4 cup of flour. And now I'm going to stir those together. The next thing you're gonna add in is 1 egg, and you'll just crack that into the bowl. And then 1 cup of milk. So here I have 1 cup. And we're gonna add both of those into the bowl with the flour mixture. And this is for the onion ring batter. And then we're gonna get a fork and just whisk it together using the fork. And you'll want to make sure that you get the egg yolk broken down and mixed in as well. Okay, so now I've got my batter mixed all together. And as soon as the oil heats, we're going to dip the onion slices into the batter and put them in the kettle fryer. So I'll show you how to do that when it heats up. Okay, so now what we're going to do is get a wire rack, and you might want to put something underneath it. We've got this plastic lid here. And what you're gonna do is take the onion slices from right here, and you're going to take the rings and dip them in the batter like this, and then set them to the side on the wire rack to drip off onto the thing that you placed underneath it, in my case the plastic lid. So we're just going to do that with all of the onion rings. Okay, so here I have my wire rack with my battered onion rings on it, and the rack is full, but I still have onion rings left over, so I'm just going to do this in rounds. When I put those in, I'll batter the next ones and put them on the wire rack. So depending how big your wire rack is and how many onion rings you have, you might do the same thing. So now the kettle fryer is heated up, so I've got the basket that goes in it, and we're going to take the onion rings and just set them in along the bottom. and you can overlap them. So we're just going to take all the onion rings and put them in the basket. Okay, so now we've got them in along the bottom of it, and now we're going to take it in the kettle fryer and just slowly, you don't want to drop it in the oil, just slowly set it in to the bottom. So it's in the oil. Let me move my camera so I can show you. Right there. So now that they're cooking, we're going to wait. You want to leave them in the oil until they're golden brown, so maybe 2 to 3 minutes, but we'll check back when they're golden brown. Okay, so while we're waiting for them to deep fry, make sure and like this video and subscribe to my channel for the rest of my awesome baking videos. Okay, so now that they're done deep frying, we're going to take the basket and pull it out and just let all the oil drain out of the bottom as much as you can. And then you can see on the side here there's this little hook that you want to hook onto the side of the deep fryer to just let the rest of the oil drain out. Okay, so now you want to get a ceramic plate like this one and get a few paper towels on it. And then once the basket's drained, you'll want to take it and put it sideways on the plate like this, and then take a fork or something and just pull the onion rings out of the basket. Now I've taken all the onion rings out of the basket, and as you can see here, they're on the plate. Now that I've taken the onion rings out of the basket and onto the plate, I'm going to get a table salt shaker and just sprinkle some salt over the top of the onion rings, not a whole lot, depending on how salty you like them. And then if you want, you can let them cool, and then you can enjoy them. Hey guys, so the first round of onion rings, I didn't have breadcrumbs, which is on the recipe, so they all kind of stuck together, so getting them out, they kind of were in pieces, but they tasted really good. So this time I have breadcrumbs, and we're going to be doing it again. So I added a little more oil because some of it cooked out, I guess, into the onion rings before. So I added a little more oil, and I turned it back up to 365, and I have another batch of onion rings that's battered, so we're gonna go get those and add the breadcrumbs and put those in. So while we're waiting for the oil to finish heating, I've got a plate that I've spread out some breadcrumbs on, and I'm just gonna take each of the onion rings and dip it in the breadcrumbs. And then just kind of shake it off when I tap it, or when I take it out, or you can tap it with your finger to get any excess breadcrumbs to come off. So kind of just like that. And I'm going to take each of them and dip it in the breadcrumbs. When you have the breadcrumbs, generally it makes it so that they don't stick together as much when they're deep frying. And it makes the edges a little crispier. So, just kind of tap it. And again, we're going to do this with all of the onion rings. Just kind of get the excess off, and then put it back on the wire rack where you had it before, where the batter was dripping off. And then when the oil reheats, we're gonna go ahead and deep fry them. So we'll come back when I finished all of these. Okay, so the oil has just heated up. So what I'm gonna try this time is getting the basket. And by the way, when you put the basket in, you wanna make sure it's completely dry because water and oil do not make a good mix. So I'm gonna get the basket and just lower that in first. And then I'm going to take each of the onion rings and drop them into the oil. So, you don't want to drop them too far in the oil because then the oil might splash, but just kind of lower them in. And without touching the oil, try and maybe push them down a little so that the oil covers them. And it's okay to layer these because the breadcrumbs should keep it from baking together or frying together. And again, we're just going to fry it for about 2 to 3 minutes or until they're golden brown. So now I've gotten all of them into the fryer, and I'm going to take a fork and just kind of push them down where I can so that the oil covers all of it. And we'll come back when they're okay. And so while we're waiting for that to finish cooking, I'm gonna get the other onion rings that I still have, the slices I have, and I'm going to dip those in the batter and coat those. Just kind of let it drip a little bit, and then I put those on the wire rack so that when these are done, I can start the next round of onion rings. The onion rings are finished in the fryer, so again, what we're going to do is, we've got the plate here that we used last time, and we're just going to lift up the basket and let it drip out as much oil as it can into the fryer. And then once we've got all of the oil out, what we're going to do again is take the basket and put it sideways on the plate, and then this time all the onion rings just kind of fall out and they pull apart a lot easier. So the breadcrumbs definitely help. Okay, and I'm going to put the basket back in the oil, and then this time I'm going to breadcrumb the rest of the onion rings that I had battered and set them back on the wire rack. You don't want to put them in as you go because then there's some that will be done a lot sooner than others. Now I've got all of the other onion rings breadcrumbed, so I'm going to lower each of them into the oil as well. And I'm going to try and do it a little quick because you don't want there to be too much space in between when each of them enter the oil, or else they won't cook as evenly. And I'm going to try and layer them evenly so they're not all stacked in one spot and they're spread out throughout the pan. And then once I've got them all in, I'm going to take the fork again and press them down so that they're all covered by the oil, so that they're all cooking the same. Okay, so now I've got all of them in. I'm going to take my fork and press them all down into the oil. And you've already seen this part, so now that we're just waiting for them to cook, I'm going to end the video here. Okay guys, thank you so much for joining me for this week's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and that if you made the onion rings too, that they turned out good. So make sure and like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel to get all my awesome baking videos. I'll be linking the recipe for these onion rings in the description down below, and my social media account will also be down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.